Number 2, Jami-Lee Ross.
Mr. Speaker, my question is to the Minister of Finance and asks, what are likely to be the main pressures on interest rates, and what steps is the government?
Order. That level of interjection from the Honourable Trevor Mallard is unacceptable. I invite Jami-Lee Ross to start that question again.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. What are likely to be the main pressures on interest rates, and what steps is the government taking to help prevent home mortgage rates from returning to levels seen in 2008?
Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr. Speaker, we know what the main pressure on interest rates will be because we know the lessons from the period up to 2008. And at that time, we learned that runaway government spending can push interest rates up further faster, and up to 2008 government spending jumped 50% in the previous 5 years. We also know that a runaway housing market can drive interest rates higher. The effect of both of those mistakes was that floating mortgage rates reached nearly 11% by 2008 and inflation exceeded 5%. That's why this government is focusing on being careful with any increase in government spending and working closely with councils to improve housing supply.
Supplementary.
Supplementary question, Jami-Lee Ross.
What other steps is the government taking to prevent house prices doubling, as they did between 2001 and 2007, which created risks for households and pushed up interest rates?
Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr. Speaker, of course, New Zealanders couldn't afford another doubling in house prices, as occurred between 2001 and 2007. So the government is focusing on a wide range of particular measures to take pressure off the housing market, including reform of the Resource Management Act and the Local Government Act, reform of the rules around development contributions, which have proven to be a significant obstacle in Christchurch, and addressing these issues directly with Council through housing accords. For instance, the housing accord with Auckland, which is on track to reach its first year's targets. And earlier today, the Housing Minister announced a housing accord with the Christchurch City Council. And we acknowledge the significant efforts by both of those councils to ensure that more people in those cities can have affordable housing.
Supplementary.
Point of order, Denis O'Rourke.
Mr. Speaker, the last two questions asked the Minister to talk about home mortgage interest rates and steps taken in respect of them, but he's only talked about house prices and availability and has not addressed at all the question of steps taken in respect of home mortgage interest rates. Perhaps he could be asked to actually address the questions.
Order. I'm actually unsure of the point the member's making. In regards to the second supplementary is around what steps is the government taking to increase housing supply, etc., and that was well and truly addressed by the Minister in his answer. Further supplementary question, Jami-Lee Ross.
How have New Zealand families benefited from lower interest rates and smaller increases in the cost of living in recent years?
Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr. Speaker, lower interest rates and smaller increases in the cost of living are pretty important to households. Floating mortgage rates fell from 11% in 2008 to around 6% today. For a family with a $200,000 mortgage, that's a reduction in their mortgage costs by around $200 a week, or $10,400 per year. It's no wonder that they don't want to go back to record high interest rates as they were paying in 2008. Statistics New Zealand reported this morning that annual inflation has dipped to 1.5% in the year to March, just a 0.3% increase in the March quarter, and household electricity prices rose by only 0.1% in the March quarter. On average, household wage increases are greater than the increase in the cost of living.
Supplementary.
Supplementary question, Phil Twyford.
How can he claim his government's record on housing is better when Real Estate Institute of New Zealand data shows that the growth of house prices in Auckland has been nearly 50% higher in real terms since 2009 than it was between 1999 and 2008. And the median house price in Auckland has gone up by $156,000 since his government took office, or is $600 a week just to stand still an achievable savings goal under his regime?
Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, the government has been dealing with the worst possible circumstances, and that has been a doubling of house prices between 2001 and 2007, followed by sharp reductions in supply, particularly in our biggest market, Auckland, and then uniquely in our second biggest market, Christchurch. And we've been working for 5 years to persuade councils that the rules they make about new land supply and new house building affect house prices, and in the last 12 months we've been starting to get somewhere. But it has been a long, slow process.
Supplementary.
Order.
Supplementary.
Supplementary question, Jami-Lee Ross.
What economic policies would push up interest rates and send the cost of living soaring for New Zealand families?
Honourable
Well, Mr
Bill
Speaker,
English.
we know what sort of policies would do that because we saw them in the years up to 2008. Runaway government spending, which jumped 50% in 5 years to 2008, and a doubling of house prices between 2001 and 2007, accompanied by, for instance, 72% increase in electricity prices in the 9 years to 2008, and a doubling of the cost of the emissions trading system on households. These are all policies of the Labor Green opposition.
Order. Question number 3, Grant Robertson.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is